All right, good. So my name is Diane Mueller. I'm the Director of Community Development for OpenShift. I'm also the person behind all the OpenShift Commons briefings, is when we do things like this virtually every week. And my cohort here is Joe Fernandes.
Yeah, I'm Joe Fernandes. I run the product management team for OpenShift, and I lead the containers initiative cross-product at Red Hat.
Yeah. And we have for you this week, it could be called the OpenShift Summit. It's more like
give us a couple years.
Everything that you hear today on Monday. A number of the folks who are speaking here are doing additional sessions at the rest, so if you have questions, you can go into that. But there are just, I think, 80 different OpenShift sessions throughout the whole week. So I'd like you to think of this session today as a way to kick off the conversations and get some of the background and start meeting some of your peers across the OpenShift Commons community. So really what I'm trying to emphasize here is that OpenShift is an open source project. We're all about the OpenShift communities, and I put an S on there on purpose because it's not just the OpenShift origin code base that we're working with, it's a lot of other code bases that get upstreamed into OpenShift, and we'll talk a little bit about this. And it's about openly collaborating with all of the upstream projects as well as all of the ISVs and integrators and you folks who are using OpenShift to make this the best container platform possible and continue to drive innovation into it. And your feedback today is going to be part of the important ingredient in making sure that we continuously innovate in OpenShift. So a lot of you have seen this diagram before, but and that there's no way that I could put all of the balloons of all of the things, so I just gave up about 6 months ago. But we pull into OpenShift a wide variety of open source projects, and we really need to acknowledge that and all of the communities that we work with. Because we built on the backs of the shoulders of giants. My voice keeps going up and down, but that's okay. And we put out a whole lot of other great, wonderful projects and products with that, as well as a lot of you are host operators and service providers in the room, and you're also using this same code base and doing it in your unique value-added ways. And everything is done in the open. So we really are doing open source first here. And I want to emphasize a number of the other folks that are here. Service providers are in the room, and partners, and people are building and integrating services that you need for your enterprises and for your projects are also in the room. So this is really about not about OpenShift itself or Red Hat itself. It is about what the future of open source looks like. It looks like open collaboration, and really what you're seeing in the container industry, in the cloud native space, and in all of technology today is this new model of open source collaboration. And we really have been the beneficiaries, I think, of this new approach to open source. As opposed to building everything we need for OpenShift ourselves, we really partner with and collaborate with a lot of other communities. So I'm going to start with, some of you are members of the OpenShift Commons and some of you aren't. Commons is a slightly different community model. It is really about creating those peer-to-peer community connections and making sure that we have a really open communications channel with all of you. So to that end, we've really tried to change the way the open source communities work and take Red Hat as the connective tissue and allow you to connect to each other directly through our Slack channels, through the OpenShift Commons briefings that happen at least once a week, and we're going to 2 days a week because there's that many members soon, and we may have to do 3, so I may never travel again. It'll be virtual, Diane, that you'll know. Today, there are 45 member organizations from OpenShift Commons already, so if you're not in the OpenShift Commons, you'll hear me all week long, and I'll have a pod out on the dev zone where you can sign up and join officially. There are 133 at last count organizations in the room. So you're all unique snowflakes, but a lot of you still can come and join. And some of you, I understand, have issues in terms of being government organizations and can't officially join things. But we really encourage you to join so that you can get in on the communications channels that we have and connect with your peers. And it really helps a lot. We also The last gathering we did was in Berlin, was just 30 days ago. In the last 30 days, we've had over 10 new members join. So we're beyond the hockey stick. I'm Canadian, so everything's a hockey stick. We're really ramping up in terms of the number of folks that are here. And as I mentioned very early on, we totally oversold this event. So as people trickle in today, it's going to be interesting because we've already got standing room and it's just 9 a.m. What we're really trying to do is make sure that everybody connects during the lunch hours, during the breaks. What I'd love you all to do right now is to introduce yourself to the person who's next to you. Stop for a minute. Okay? All right.
Chaos.
Chaos rules. All right.
All right, we'll never.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Sounds like Parliament in here.
That's the noise level we want.
It's like the British Parliament.
That's fabulous.
All right.
All right, back to me. Over here, back here. I started it, and we're going to continue this. And what I'm going to say is also, if you're sitting next to somebody you came with, at the next break, switch it up. Sit next to somebody you don't know and introduce yourself. One of the things that's amazed me in Berlin, there were a ton of people from the automotive industry. BMW, Volvo was in the house. It was just amazing who came. At this event, there are so many banks and finance people here, I'm a little afraid to check my checkbook. And a lot of government organizations who will remain nameless. So really just reach out, make sure you introduce yourselves, and we'll get the ball rolling here. We have over 260 members in the OpenShift Commons. I stopped counting at 50 countries, and I need to plug in more people on the map. But really, it is one of the things we talk about a lot as an OpenShift and as a community manager is in the past, community managers really focused on coercing all of you into contributing code to my code base. And we no longer do that because it just happens naturally. So Amadeus is in the room, Macquarie Bank, a whole bunch of people here, Google people are in the room, Microsoft people, tons of people. Over 50 organizations have started contributing to the OpenShift Origin code base. And as well as everybody in the room knows what Kubernetes, anyone not know what Kubernetes is? All right.
You might be in the wrong room.
You might be in the wrong room if you don't know that. So it really is all about collaboration. So a year, almost a little over a year ago, when did we pivot to Kubernetes? Was that a year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago now. When we pivoted, it started contributing to the Kubernetes thing. We did it in an open way and in a way that really helped us drive where we wanted container platforms to go. And so this has really been about collaborating with the Kubernetes crew, as well as in the CNCF. Where is CNCF? Yeah, Dan Cohn is here, who's the executive director of the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which is the umbrella organization that Kubernetes is in, as well as a whole host of other tools, from Prometheus to FluentD, and things that are integral to our offerings and our enterprise deployments of OpenShift. So we really are trying to make sure that we are the connective tissue. We can connect you with the other crews. You can give feedback on it and make it all work. There's tons of stuff going on our mailing list, on our Slack channel, all over the place. Right now, I cut out the OpenShifters who did this, but there are over 50 organizations that are currently contributing to OpenShift Origin, so we say thank you, and you should thank each other. There are not yet. And I think there were 27 individuals who were not associated yet with an organization, so they're all looking for jobs probably. So we continue, and it's just ramping up the amount of participation in the project. And so I'm really pleased and I'm really grateful for that from all of you. And I look forward to more of it. So I should hope of the 133 of you, minus the 45, who aren't in the room, that after today, going forward, you'll see some benefit in joining into this conversation and join us. You can find me in the OpenShift Commons pod in the dev zone, and I will hook you up with whatever you need. And I'm going to let Joe run us through the agenda.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. Almost 4 years ago now, we made a pivot around OpenShift and around what we were focusing on standards-based containers. We made the choice for Kubernetes. We were part of that launch. And 2 years ago here in Boston, we launched OpenShift 3. So to be back here today and see all of these customers, in fact, if you're a customer of OpenShift or somebody who's using OpenShift who's not from Red Hat, could you raise your hand? So take a look around. These are the people that you want to talk to and find out what they're doing. We have, I believe, 8 of these folks speaking here today. So this is our agenda. So you'll be hearing from customers like Macquarie, ATPCO, Point72, Swiss Railways, Cisco, CA, La Poste, Mass General Hospital Partners Healthcare, and Inmarsat. They're going to be talking about OpenShift in their environment, some of the problems they're trying to solve that are specific to their organizations, some of the challenges they face, how they've thinking about OpenShift in that context, and then really where they want to go with it and so forth. So hopefully you'll learn as much from each other as you will from us. And then as Diane mentioned, at Red Hat Summit, which starts tomorrow, we have over 80 sessions that are focused on OpenShift. Many of them are with customers as well. So there's additional customers, some of the logos are here, who will be speaking at Red Hat Summit, either in the keynotes or in the breakout sessions, or both in some cases. So definitely check those out. Again, we can talk to you all day about OpenShift. We live this stuff, about containers, but it's really when you start hearing about actual implementations, dev, test, and production. Some of the analysts still think that containers aren't a thing in production. We're here to prove them wrong, right? Because there's a lot of production deployments of containers, and we're really helping drive that with a lot of customers you see here. At the end of the day, it's not about containers, right? It's about what you do with those things, right? So the conversations that I have with customers are about these 3 things. One, how are they thinking about their applications? How are they evolving to new architectures? What are they thinking about in terms of microservices, in terms of distributed application patterns and so forth? But then also recognizing that most of us are part of enterprise organizations that have a pretty long base of apps already in existence, right? So we can't just throw all of that out and do microservices, in greenfield. That would be nice, but that's not the reality. So it's how you basically deal with the applications you have, as well as the new applications that you're thinking about building, right? On the platform, on the infrastructure side, a lot of you are deploying applications to the public cloud. Some of you are deploying applications to multiple public clouds. You may also be building private clouds, but many of you are also running applications on virtualization platforms like VMware or Rev or Hyper-V, and even on bare metal, right? And that's kind of where we see the role of containers in OpenShift, is creating that abstraction between the applications and the infrastructure that it runs on, so that ultimately the owner of that application, the developer, doesn't know or doesn't care where that application is running, right? And you can then move that around. Hybrid infrastructure is a reality, right? So everybody's deploying that stuff out on Amazon or Azure or Google, but everybody still has stuff running on VMware or OpenStack or bare metal infrastructure. And then lastly, the process, right? And this isn't as much a technology issue as it is a people and process issue, but things like how do you evolve your processes towards more agile methods, towards more automation, maybe enabling continuous deployment, continuous delivery, and so forth. And again, these are what make our conversations interesting, because it's not about OpenShift, it's not about containers, it's about all these things. And then what we're trying to do is figure out how can we help, right? How can we leverage containers technology and Kubernetes and OpenShift to help you move across this spectrum, to help you take advantage, to evolve your application architectures, to evolve your infrastructure, to evolve your processes, and what are the features and functions and new capabilities that we need to work on to make that easier for all of you. So when we think about the product, it's a challenging product to manage. I've been doing product management now for 17 years. Definitely the most interesting product I've ever worked on. And so there's a lot of moving pieces. We've structured today's Red Hat sessions. They're called Ask Me Anything. And literally, we want you to ask us anything that you can think of around these areas. We break them up into 3 categories. The third session today is about the foundation. We always start with this part, so we figured we'd put them last today. But this is Linux. This is the container runtime, container packaging, and so forth. Ultimately, RHEL is the foundation of OpenShift. But moreover, Linux is the foundation of every container platform in existence, right? Because containers are actually Linux. They're just features of Linux, features of the Linux kernel, and then you have the container runtime that basically helps manage that. So Red Hatters in the room who work on this layer, on Linux, on containers, could you guys raise your hands? All right, so there's several of them here. A few of them will be up on stage. Seek these folks out, ask them questions. But at the end of the day, containers, right, that's just the first piece. We need to scale those containers, right? We need to basically deploy complex applications that are going to run across multiple containers, across many hosts, hundreds, if not thousands of hosts in case of some of the larger deployments. So as Diane mentioned, it's actually over 3 years ago now, we made a strategic bet on Kubernetes, one of the best decisions I think that Red Hat's made. And we've become top contributors to this project. Number 2 in terms of contribution count to Google, but we're really focused beyond Google in terms of running it anywhere. And to do that, it's not just work on Kubernetes, it's work on how does Kubernetes intersect with your networking environments in SDN, how do you tie it into your storage for stateful services, your registries to manage the images and containers that run on that platform, logging and metrics, security, authentication, authorization, right? So we have a whole team of folks that work upstream in Kubernetes, but then are also working on all of these touch points and interfaces. And for the engineers and product managers in the room, could you raise your hand if you're working on this layer of the stack? I know you're out there, come on. There's more than these people.
They're down, they're sitting along the wall.
They're all standing in the back getting coffee. But we'll have our second session today. We'll be focused on this area, talking about things like some of the new things like federation, some of the expanded workload support, as well as some of the existing stuff that we're continuing to enhance. And then the last piece, right, it's all about the applications, right? Because at the end of the day, containers and Kubernetes and orchestration, it's all interesting, but it's there to serve the needs of your applications, to serve the needs of your application developers. And so we need to connect that via things like self-service and service catalogs and tying into your build systems and CI and automating the deployments and enabling CD pipelines and so forth. So we have a lot of features that go beyond sort of the orchestration layer to do those tie-ins. And whether you're leveraging our services or tying our stuff to what you already have in place, this is really important. So lastly, I'll ask the Red Hatters who are working on the green boxes, raise your hands. All right, they're all asleep. There's plenty out there. You'll see them in the first session. We'll be talking about this. So this is sort of the OpenShift Universe slide. Diane just showed a version. This shows customer logos as well as Commons members and partners. I'm happy to say we're going to have to retire this version of the slide because there's actually all these new customers and new Commons members that we have to bring on board. So with that, thank you all for coming.